All right, let's do it. So here we go, another episode of Grind My Gears. It's like Fox News. He's a regular contributor. Chris Bonfoco down from the beautiful, it's not an island, peninsula of Belize, uh, escaping all this bullshit that's going on in North America. And what's up, Coach? I call him Coach. What's up, Coach? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's like it's sad seeing what's happening up in Canada, but it's also very inspiring. Like I've
Yeah,
been brought to a lot of emotion over this whole thing. But yeah, other than that, I mean, down here it's pretty quiet down here. It's a small country. Really not much going on other than the sun and the beach and living that tough lifestyle at that.
yeah, you know that. Right. Well, they were trying to clamp down a little bit last time we talked, and I'm assuming they kind of backed off of that, given.
Yeah, they started. So last time we spoke, they were going into some ridiculous things. Like we were on house arrest on a Sunday
Yeah,
for 2 weeks, right? It was only the Sunday, like, whatever reason.
COVID on a Sunday. That's the only day you can get it.
Yes, well, yeah, as long as COVID only hangs out in the church apparently.
Yeah,
So, so yeah, on Sundays it was locked down, and then October there's still pretty strict restrictions. They're getting pretty stupid with their the experimental medical procedures,
well,
the mandate.
wax on,
Yeah,
wax off.
and then I did the Ironman. I went to Mexico, and then I was there for a month. I was in Cozumel for a month. When I got back, the restrictions were kind of there, but a lot have been lifted. The statutory instrument, which they call them, it's their restrictions.
Yeah,
They openly admitted that the whole reason for the curfew, because we have a curfew here, the whole reason for the curfew is in fact to cut down crime. They
okay.
admitted it.
They admitted
Uh,
it. Yeah,
and to be honest, I mean, it's a Central American country. This country it's mostly safe.
yeah.
But they call it a developing country. The UN still classifies it as a third world country. As someone who lives here, it's still a third world country.
Well, and too, there obviously is not as much money and cash flow going into and out of the country as a first world country, so you're going to get crime. It's just that's how
Yeah,
it is.
yeah. So when the lockdowns initially happened, it really hurt a lot of Belizeans, right? They're
Yeah,
fortunate enough though, like it's amazing how much more resourceful people here are than people in like say Canada and the US when it comes to like real natural living because the economy shut down and so what do? They go fishing,
yeah.
they go
They
hunting,
they grow their own food.
yeah, like they build their shacks. You don't need heating here,
Yeah,
right?
because you just need to be cool, so away from
Yeah,
the sun.
and yeah, and air conditioning isn't. It's believe me, it's hot.
Yeah.
like I when I got here, I was like, oh, I love the heat. The heat doesn't bother me, whatever. Yeah, and then
After a few days, you're like, fuck this.
that time of year, this time of year is beautiful. This is why the tourists come here now.
Yeah,
Like when you get between like June and the middle of September, there's no break. Like it starts even like actually May. It starts in May. There's no break. Like it's a little cooler in the morning simply because you're not getting the radiant heat directly from the sun.
yeah.
But I mean, there's mornings I would get up, like I would get on my bike at 4 o'clock in the morning, and by the time I put my cycling kit on, I'm already soaked, like I'm
Yeah.
drenched in sweat. Like, and if I try to do my training after 8 in the morning, forget it's like there's no way. Like
It's way too hot. Yeah.
yeah. So like
So
the first couple of days of heat you could deal with, just like you get in Canada when you get
yeah,
that heat wave. The first it's not so bad because it's only a few days.
yeah.
The first couple of days you can endure, but when it's like month after month, like oh man, it breaks you down. You
Well,
learn.
to put it in perspective, I remember after I did my ACL, I did a whole camp out in Arizona, right? And the first week, like they were running, we were doing two a days. The first week, I could not hydrate myself for the life of me. You could drink as much water as you wanted, and we would do the first workout at like 8 a.m. and I would lose so much plasma and water during that time. And the next practice was at 3. I would, by the end of the day, I'd lost 9, 10 pounds of strictly water, and to rehydrate that over and over and over and do, let alone MMA, but Ironman stuff too. It's ridiculous. Like it'll wear you down within a week. I'm
Yeah, and
s-
that Arizona heat's a little different than here too. They're equally rough. I remember Vegas. Like you feel like you're cooking in that heat. Like
Yeah,
you,
and it's a dry heat too. So
yeah,
like
that's what I mean. Yeah.
there's no moisture in the air, so like you're breathing, you're like, fuck, there's no air, like it's a bitch. But
Yeah.
I mean, it took me by the time I left, I was adjusted, but it took me about 2.5, 3 weeks to really adjust. But doing athletic things in that kind of heat, like you don't have much time. 40,
Oh,
45 minutes to an hour before your body is just given out from you can hydrate all you want, but it's gonna that the rate of loss of fluid is huge.
oh, it's crazy. Like here's the different heat. It's humidity. It's straight humidity, so it's thick.
Yeah.
You feel like you're cutting through the air, right? There's like people say like you know the type. They say that oh it's the pollution. Like
Climate change.
there's not pollution in bleach. Like
Yeah.
seriously, people burn. There's a lot of fires that burn. Like because people burn like foliage and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're really good at it. Like, they know how to do it. Like the Belizeans are really good at that. But yeah, there's no real pollution. It's just so thick. It's just the humid. It's I thought living in Niagara because Niagara is humid, but it's no,
No.
it's a whole different kind. And yeah, when you're talking about the time out, there was one morning I went for a run, at a 90-minute run, and it was early in the summer here. They don't really have summer, winter here. They have the rainy season and the dry season.
Yeah.
Summer is the rainy season, believe it or not. Like you would think that when it's rainy, it wouldn't be no, because it's so humid that
So here, especially after it rains, right? As like the humidity picks up.
oh, it gets crazy.
Yeah.
And then the when the I was gonna say like every night is like the most violent thunderstorm we've ever heard. It's pretty awesome. But yeah, so this one morning I went out for a 90-minute run and I didn't bring my if it's that short of a run, it doesn't seem short if it's 90 minutes, but when you've been training for Ironman, 90 minutes becomes actually a relatively short run.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well, no shit.
the, I have this like water pouch I carry as like a belt that's got two little water bottles in it. I'm
Yeah.
sure you've seen people running with
Yeah.
them.
I've seen people run, but not serious running. They're running down Young Street pretending to run.
There's some serious Ironman athletes in Canada.
No, I'm saying the ones that I see them are running down Young Street, stopping at every stoplight because they use Young Street as a scapegoat to have
Yeah,
easy runs.
yeah, so
I'm,
they can take a break out. Yeah,
I'm
totally.
like, you could literally run the other way and run nonstop for an hour. Instead, you decide to run down the busiest street and intersection in downtown Toronto. You did it for a reason. You want breaks.
100%. Yeah. So on that run, I didn't bring my pouch, and holy smokes, man! The last 45 minutes of that run,
Dying.
oh, it was terrible. I remember like right now as we're talking, I see running by the plantation. It's an area of the peninsula. I'm on a peninsula. The country is
Yeah.
kind of at the bottom of the Yucatan Peninsula, but Placencia, where I live, is on this
Yeah.
more narrow peninsula. And yeah, I was coming around the plantation. It's oh man, was it ever? I was just dying. Like it
Now,
was
now you did an Ironman back December, right? Or November?
end of November.
End of November. The the sheer amount of like distance I can't comprehend because I would never fucking do that. So like I know you did really well and walk me through like how that whole experience was for you as a lifelong athlete and as a coach. How was that experience? Just the preparation into the actual Ironman. How did that go?
It was it. First of all, the experience itself, life changing. Like it was, you know, I never understood before I had my son when people say, "Oh, the best day of my life is when I had kids," right? Like I
Yeah.
totally get that now, obviously, right? Take away that as far as a personal achievement and a personal experience. There's never been anything like it. The training for me, it was extra long because I was when I started my training for it at the end of 2019, when I got this silly idea to do this Ironman thing. Um, the I was thinking 2 years because I couldn't swim. Right,
Yeah.
well, I could, but I could only like paddle around. I was scared. I was scared.
Yeah.
Of water. Still am. You never get over it, but I just learn how to deal with it. But anyway, so I decided I started to swim pretty quick. Like not fat, not a fast swimmer, but I learned
Yeah.
right? So I decided I'm going to do Wisconsin in September 2021. So I kept my training, and it was all new and it was fun. And I was doing this with my first 2 hour run, my first 3 hour run, my first 6 hour ride.
Even that sounds ridiculous to me. Like, I'll run for like 35 minutes and feel fucking accomplished. Well, my first 2 hour, fuck that.
Yeah, like my first 2 hour swim, right?
Yeah.
The it's I was going through that. It was really fun. I was having a great time. It it really COVID for me and Ironman. Like Ironman was my coping mechanism.
Yeah.
For what was going on with my business and with
The world in general.
yeah, it was. I'm an athlete. That's how I deal with life, right?
Yeah.
So I decided to Wisconsin, but I never registered because Ironman doesn't have the best reputation for refunds and stuff like that. And like,
Gotcha.
but you also can't really blame them too much because they had to pull all these permits and stuff to do these things. And
And you need emergency personnel to be on standby all the time too. You can't like so you got to pay for that ahead of time, even just
yeah,
to reserve them. So even if you have to cancel the event, it's like a deposit for a wedding. You know what I mean? You're gonna lose it if something happens, right?
yeah, yeah, and like so, they weren't refunding, but what they were doing is like just we'll you can do another one. At first, it was like you could do this one next year because it's canceled because of COVID. Like everybody in COVID, like honestly, all the businesses as a business owner through COVID, like in COVID,
Yeah.
uh, we didn't know what the hell was going
No.
on, right? So they were doing that. So anyway, I didn't register for Wisconsin, but I did it myself. I did it anyway. I did it alone. I just had my wife, uh, um, Eric,
Yeah.
right, and my father follow me around as my support crew, and that was a fantastic experience. Like I that was incredible, and I was like, you know how it's the Stanley Cup syndrome, right? Like you
Yeah.
do something, it's hard to get fired back up for it. So I got down here and I was still planning on doing it, but my inspiration wasn't as strong because I had already done this big personal accomplishment. But I'm like, I want I want the damn tattoo.
Yeah.
So I got to do it, right? And to say like, oh, have you done an Ironman? Well, I did one on my own. I would say no, I've done the Ironman,
Yeah.
right? Like,
It's a point of pride. Like it's one thing to say you did it on your own. People are like, oh, whatever. But like it's an actual
yeah,
thing to actually to do an actual competition.
yeah, it's a huge life accomplishment.
Yeah.
My concern, like my plan was originally I wanted to climb Everest, and then I realized I don't want to die in a mountain because I'm stuck in traffic because it's so
Yeah.
commercial. Right?
Exactly.
So, so I'll do this. So anyway, I got my training going down here. The Belizeans were great. Like my friend Clive, fantastic guy. He was bringing people from all over this country who would rally together. They would come down here and they would ride with me, right?
Yeah.
And I would lead the way. They like to cycle, like they're cyclists. I'm a triathlete, so like they like to draft. I don't like drafting because you're not allowed to draft in Ironman, right? So
Yeah.
um, I would lead the way, but they didn't complain because I hold a pretty fast pace, right? So
Yeah.
um, anyway, so yeah, going through that training and just the miles, like my body started breaking down. Started having some big problems with my ankles. Like my ankles now are huge, right? Like they've gotten so big from, and I started having problems with bunions in my feet because it's just I've always had them, but they never affected me. And then
Yeah.
here caused my feet to expand. And if they don't bother me in the run, they bother me in the bike, right?
They'll get you somewhere. Like I remember David Goggins when he does his ultra marathons, like some if your only connection to the floor is your fucking feet and you're doing that many miles, you something's gonna go wrong with them no matter what.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, and then my swimming started getting tough here because every time I swim in the bay here, I get stung by a freaking jellyfish.
Uh,
I hate jellyfish. Like they are. What is like? I was talking to one of my Muay Thai
what's the
students.
purpose of them?
Yeah, I said to one of my Muay Thai students, he got the best answer. I said to him, I was like really, what do jellyfish do? And he's got this New Zealand accent.
Yeah.
His Hamish. He says, I don't know. I think they just kind of float around and be dicks.
Yeah.
That's
Yep,
all.
I can't find a purpose for them either. Like I think if you remove them from the sea, Nobody would give a fuck. Nobody would give a fuck. Like climate activists would stand down. They'd be like, "Oh, okay, this is just fuck jellyfish."
They suck. You can't see them either. They just get you. So anyway, so I got through all the training, and by the end of it, I was really like, just let's get this over with. It'd been 20 months.
Yeah.
Actually, it was more. It was actually 26 months of training because I started at the 25 and a half. I started at the end of September 2019. And so when I got to Cozumel, first of all, there's a lot. I got a lot of stuff to give here. So I drove from Belize
to Mexico.
Yeah. So I had my big F-150 I used to call, Big Red, because all the vehicles you buy down here, they're usually salvage vehicles, right?
Yeah.
So this thing is a 2005 big V8 F-150. I loved it. I traded it because I don't need it anymore. It was too much vehicle, and the gas here is crazy. Like it's $6.20 US a gallon.
It's gonna get worse here too, but we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah. So anyway, I drove there. So a couple of myths to the spell. First of all, Mexico is a great country. Mexico is not this. Yes, there's crime and yes, there's danger, but guess what? Everywhere else there is too.
Yeah.
So we were driving there. We crossed the border. We were totally comfortable. We've been living in Belize now for a year, so for us it wasn't like a big deal. So some people were commenting like, "Oh, you're going through some sketchy areas there." It's like, well, first of all, the pillar of self-defense, right? Don't put yourself in a place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go into a place in the dark. I'm going to drive during the day, and I'm going to know where I'm going. I don't speak the language, although I'm learning now.
Yeah.
I don't speak the language. I'm actually a temporary resident of Mexico right now.
Oh, good. This guy's I'm fucking stuck here. I'm a fucking prisoner in Canada. This guy's just got escape plan after escape plan.
So, so we drove through, absolutely no problems. The infrastructure in a lot of spots in Mexico, much of it is better than in Canada.
That's surprising.
Yeah. And the nicest grocery stores I've ever been in my life. Like I've been all over the U.S. with MMA. I've been all over Canada. Like the Mega in Mexico, like the one in Cozumel, like they're all over the place. So the Mega everywhere.
Yeah,
that's a grocery store. It's
like Loblaws there, I guess.
Yeah, it makes Sobeys or Kroger's, American Eagle. It makes all these places look like
shitty.
I couldn't believe how nice it was, and how cheap everything is, and how friendly the people were. Like I come from Dane City in Welland, Ontario, and I remember how angry I used to get. I wouldn't really get angry because I've always been an athlete, but I know my neighbors would, and I'd get irritated when the triathletes, cyclists would be racing through, and that's simply because of poor governance in Welland, because there was only one way out of Dane City, so we'd get stuck for 10 minutes waiting to get out of our village to get by these cyclists. The entire island of Cozumel closes down prior. The whole thing.
Just closes.
Closes right down. Like the shops and everything stay open and people can come across.
But the roads close. They close.
There's
everything.
one road that goes around the whole island, right? There's a bunch of little ones in San Miguel, which is the main city there. But like even getting to the Ironman that day, the morning of, was crazy. Like we couldn't. It was raining and every road is blocked off.
Yeah.
So we're even following cabs, and cabbies didn't even know the secret way out of the maze. Get us to what's called T1, the transition one, where the bikes are, because you go and you check your bike. So anyway, rewind. We got there, and I trained there for the first 3 weeks there. I wanted to know the course. I wanted to know the road. First of all, it's beautiful to ride my bike on asphalt again. Because in Belize, it's paved, but it's that
dirt paving kind of thing, right?
No, it's better than that. It's like this really. I don't make roads. It's pavement, but it's that kind of like, it's like rocky jammed together stuff.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And there's kind of tires. It's okay, but it's not as smooth. So there's resistance on the wheels that's going to slow you down. Yeah. And it was so nice to ride on asphalt. Like I was easily 2 kilometers an hour, maybe a little more faster
Yeah.
on that road.
Just from friction alone, just from the
Yeah.
reduce the friction. Simple.
Well, then I put my racing wheels on as well,
Yeah.
which contributes too. So, but anyway, trained there, swam there, everything, because Cozumel doesn't have a jellyfish problem because the side that faces Mexico, there's a current that runs through. The jellyfish are on the other side, so fuck them. Right? So anyway, when the event started coming up, I remember I was getting super nervous like 2 weeks before. I'm like, why am I nervous? Like, I've been preparing for this for all this. Isn't like a jiu-jitsu tournament. Like, it's not this. Yeah, it's going to be fucking hard, but it's like, why am I getting so nervous? And I have this tendency. I do it in jiu-jitsu, and I do speak with a sports psychologist named Robert Shanky. He's outstanding.
Yeah.
And you know, I did it in jiu-jitsu where I'd be like, I feel like I'd be going to the electric chair. Like that was cool. Like a lot of MMA fighters go through that.
I do it. I do that all the time.
Yeah. So Robert was coaching me like, you know, why do you do this? You know, it's like you don't have an electric chair to get to. You have a destination, right? So 2 weeks before I spoke to Robert, nerves started to fall off because I was like, I remember sitting in this. This is funny. I remember sitting in the shower like just 2 weeks before, like this knot in my throat because what I was scared of was the swim. Okay, because that. Okay. So I'm shaving my legs. Sitting in the shower, shaving my legs. Like I'm like a dolphin now. Yeah. So I'm in the shower, shaving my legs, and just eating myself up. And then I spoke to Robert, and then I started to go, wait. So I get to the event. So let's go. I start to register.
Yeah.
Get to the event. My throat's up, not nerves anymore. It's just emotion. Like I had my sunglasses on in the convention when I was picking up my bag and registering and buying my gear, right?
Yeah.
And I had to wear my sunglasses because I was freaking weeping. I was
your face is probably like flush, or like, you know what I mean?
My eyes were for sure red.
I almost get like a sense of weakness when I get that much anxiety. Like I feel, oh shit, where'd all my muscles go? Like I don't feel anything.
Well, I know that feeling. I've been there in jiu-jitsu. This was totally different. The nerves were gone. It was just emotion, my joy of being there.
Of
right?
just getting there. Yeah.
Yeah. The positive energy of this event is like nothing I've ever felt before. Right? I'm getting emotional right now talking about it. Yeah. It was like my hat. This was the hat I ran with, right? On the side, like the Ironman logo. The Ironman logo is anything is possible. Right. Yeah. So anyway, I go through and just what we've been through to get there and how blessed I felt to be there. And so anyway, that's all wrapped up. The day before, I do my thing just like I do for jiu-jitsu tournaments, stuff. Fighters do it for MMA. Athletes do it across the board for big events. Airplane. And I just laid down. I watched some of my favorite movies. Like I have to watch Gladiator before I do any sort of competition. So I watched Gladiator. I kept my curtains drawn. My wife took George, and she went and hung out with Pat and Zante, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, who came down. And the next morning I was up 3 a.m. I barely slept. I was actually up at 1. Yeah, I barely slept. And it wasn't nerves. I was just excited. And you know when you have to sleep, you can't.
Yeah, that's what I use THC now for.
Yeah, well, I would for the longest time. I had to stop. It was giving me migraines.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I get to the event. We get in the car. We get to the event. I listen to my jam, like the tune that gets me going. That it's called "Time for War." I'm sure.
Yeah, I've heard it. Yeah.
Okay. I've listened to that in my headphones, running so many times. So, and it's not the intensity. See, like I'm not getting all jacked up. I'm listening to that to get my feelings up, my emotions up, getting ready, like clear my head because I spent a lot of time talking to Blaine about the emotions of the day, just getting it out.
Yeah.
And where to expect me, when to expect me, right? So I get to T1. I get out of the car. It's 5:30 a.m. Okay. Yeah. Just going into it's called Shakanob Natural Park. That's where the swim finishes. That's T1. The swim finishes. You grab your bike. Go in there. There's already like 250 fans lined up on both sides as every athlete's walking in, and they're screaming, they're cheering, they're ringing those Olympic bells, like cowbells. And like, man, like I'm tearing up. I walk in. The DJ's playing kick-ass positive tunes, like good old 80s rock and stuff like that. Like just happy.
Almost like a fucking party. Just,
It was. It was like almost like a rave, right?
yeah.
Like and like good dance music, all stuff like that. I get to my bike, check my bike, starts pouring rain. I get on the bus. Um, they take us to the start, right? Because of COVID, there's no fans allowed at the transition areas,
Okay.
right? So, or at the start. So we get there, and this is at it's what's it called? Marina Fonatur, where the swim starts. So it's a 3.8 kilometer swim, right? So I get in line. You line up according to your time. So because I have anxiety with being around people in the water now, I had some friends here in Belize bump into me and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I had them abuse me before I left. um,
Just get in the water. Let me punch you while you're underwater.
this one guy, he had done Ironman before too. He was like punching me in the water, like
Yeah.
just so I wouldn't panic, right? So his name's Ilum. So anyway, so I get there and I line up. And I go in the time. I go in a time that's slower than what I was expecting because I figured I'd rather be going into people than having people come into me.
Yeah.
So I'm standing there at this one point. Enter Sandman comes on. I meet these like 6 people, really cool people, all rookies too, right? So we're standing there. One guy who's carrying his buoy, he had to get a special exemption because he was so nervous. Like
Yeah.
I started talking about sharks just to fuck with him.
Yeah. I'll get one guy out of the water.
And he's like white, like he's like
Uh,
pure white. He's like, the sharks? It's like, dude, it's the ocean. Of course there's
it's a
sharks.
fucking ocean.
Right? I don't think they want to be around 2,500 human beings swimming
Yeah.
through the water, by the way. But anyway, the Enter Sandman comes on. I just say to these guys, we're talking about, just stop, guys, stop. Just listen. How fucking awesome is this?
Yeah.
Like we're about to do Ironman. The base, like the Ironman, like Enter Sandman's going. It's like I'm a metalhead too, so it's like this is fantastic, right? So we walk up. I get to the water, hit the water. I was expecting to be done in about an hour and a half. Hour 3 minutes.
Nice.
And the water there is so crystal clear, right? Like it's like an aquarium.
Yeah.
Got out of the water, felt amazing. Was a little disoriented, right? You're always like that after a long swim. Hop on the bike. Was expecting the bike to take me about 5 hours and 55 minutes to about 6 hours 5 minutes.
How long is the bike leg of that race?
180 kilometers.
Oh, fuck me. Jesus. You're like, oh, it's only a 3 kilometer swim. I'm like, okay, maybe the bike's not. I'm like, oh, fuck.
It's almost a 4 kilometer swim, 3.8.
Yeah. Fuck all that.
I got on the bike. And man, people just, there's this guy called Triathlon Terran. He has a YouTube channel. He's a Canadian dude. He's a pretty entertaining guy. I was watching. He says, "Don't worry when you get on the bike. Take your ease onto the bike, right? Because you're gonna, it's a long time, right?
It's a long time, and it's a different energy system that
Yeah.
you're using. Because like when you're swimming, especially if you're swimming well, you're almost in like a plank position in water for a whole time. Now you're going from plank to a seated position, so it's two different muscular recruitments that you need to use as a like when you're like you still need to use your core, but when you're biking, you're not using as much core as you are when you're swimming. It's two different energy systems in terms of biomechanics, right? So
yeah,
you can't if you fucking get out of the water and just start pedaling like a retard, you're gonna fucking burn out by mile 10. No matter who you are.
Yeah. Like I took it easy coming in, and that's it was my first 10 minutes watching guys pass me. Like I have a lot of confidence on the bike. Like I'm fast on the bike, so guys pass me. I'm just taking notes. The competitive guy in me. I'm like, well, I'll see you in an hour. I'll see you in an hour. Right? And I did. I saw almost all of them. So after about 10 minutes, I kicked it into gear. I did the ride in 5 hours 36 minutes. I averaged 33.1 kilometers an hour.
Nice.
And that was such a good feeling, and I did great. I had to piss the whole time. I didn't pee. Like I go this.
Are there rest stops like in the middle of the race? Yeah.
Yeah, there's hydration stations. There's like the support at Ironman's great. Like even when I got onto the bike, the fans are going crazy all around the entire island. There's people out with their signs, ringing their bells. Vamonos,
Yeah.
right? Like
I guess the worst thing though would be having to take a shit during that race. That'd be suck.
well, there's porta potties.
I know, but still, it would fucking suck.
I've never really had that happen during endurance. All that kind of shuts down. I got a story about that too.
Yeah. Well,
So
I remember that fight I had where I got sick from eating the fish, and then I finished. Remember, I finished it in like 27 seconds, but I was sick the whole day. But during the fight, I didn't feel like I had to take a shit at all. But after, I'm like, oh man,
that
I
was
got-
yeah,
yeah,
that was Columbus. That was in Columbus. Yeah,
yeah,
that was a guillotine. And so yeah, so I had to pee the whole time. I didn't. There's an Ironman because the distance is so long. You have a special needs station halfway through the bike and halfway through the run that you can stop in. We have a bag that's got special needs stuff that you pack in. Right.
yeah,
I'm going by it, and this guy, I'm coming up to this old guy. I'm like, as I'm pumping by, because I was just passing people the whole time. Right. You can't draft, so it's just like a straight line. You got to be in like the passing lane, and then there's
yeah.
a couple times I had to do double passes and stuff. So boom, 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 I'm flying by. I'm coming by this one guy. I'm like, I see the special needs. I'm like, oh, I got special need to piss. Right? As I fly by, and he yells out at me, "Just do it in your suit, bro!"
Just let it out, let it out.
So
No
I'm
one,
like, I'm not doing
no,
that. I'm not
got
doing it.
got standards, man.
Yeah, no, guys do it, but I'm not doing that. It's a long enough race. I can stop for a minute. I'm gonna have to like because I knew at some point I'd have to refill all my bottles, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I got my torpedo. I got a bottle on the down bar. I got 2 bottles behind my seat, right? Um, plus, I was getting low on nutrition. I took one gel too short by accident.
Okay.
Anyway, I get through my 3 laps, get to the transition to the run. As you pull in again, like the whole time, people going crazy. At one point on the 3rd lap, I was being a dick, and I had my Belize. I represented Belize. I
Yeah.
had the Belize kit on. Coming around on the 3rd lap, just starting it on the bike. This guy's going slow in front of me. I'm like, I'm coming up on, I'm coming up behind you. Good to your right. He's like, there's a puddle.
There's a puddle.
Puddles like this because it's just piss and rain, right?
Yeah.
And like me, like I was joking in the video I did after, like I've discovered in these sports I'm a mudda, right? Like my mother was a mudda. My
Yeah.
father was a mudda from Seinfeld.
Yeah.
The shittier the weather gets, the more excited I get, right? So he tells me this. He's like, "There's a puddle." Fucking boom! I go right by him, right through the puddle. He must have got water off my wheels.
Yeah.
I'm like, just pedal through it. Boom! I get through, and then this guy who's like creeping over. We hit this one part. It's like a river through the road. It's like 2 feet of water. It's just running through so fast. The water was up, like my pedals were wet. Like my bottom foot was underwater.
Yeah.
It was like halfway up my crank. So anyway, that was just fun in the water. So I transition to the run. Now the run is 42.2 kilometers. So you know, yeah, just looking at your face.
I was just a blank stare. I'm like, fuck that. Fuck that.
I go out to do the run. I'm feeling good. I'm actually on pace to qualify for Kona at this point for the World Championships. Doing very, very well. I did not overdo it on the bike, but I had a problem going into the Ironman. I tore a calf muscle 5 weeks.
Okay.
5 weeks before it. It doesn't affect me on the bike, and I couldn't run at all leading up to Ironman. So like, I would say the day of it was getting close to healing. The tear didn't stop me in the run at all.
Okay, that's good.
However, I made it 14 kilometers before I had to walk. I hate walking. It's like being beat.
Yeah.
Everything was cramping, right? Everything was Charlie horsing, and the heat came up. It stopped raining, and the heat came up.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm not used to the heat because I live in Belize, but
Well, after the rain too, right? It's gonna make it even more humid.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's 4K or 14K in. I had to walk a bit. Everything was cramping because my muscles weren't ready for the pounding of the run.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
Right, because I hadn't done it. Like my second to last run I did before I had to stop was a 29-kilometer run that everything felt fine on, right? Like I felt good. It was during an interval run 4 days later that it tore. So I had to run and walk quite a bit. It was 3 laps around. The signs, the cheering, right? At one point I heard someone say, "Belize es blanco."
What's this white motherfucker doing representing Belize?
So, but I'm going. I get my 3 laps, and I'm coming up the last one. I run by this one chick, and I'm like, "What's wrong with us?" And she's like, "There's so many things." I get to the finish line. And there's a group of people standing there, and they're yelling, "Hey, you in the red," because it's a blue and red jersey I had.
Yeah.
"You in the red. Is this your last lap?" because you start to get familiar with the fans too, because you're doing laps at this point, right?
Yeah.
So and I'm like, yup. And that feeling, they just erupt, right? The crowd just goes nuts. It's like, I wasn't coming first place, but the crowd is going crazy. I was far from first place, man. That guy like was done like 10 minutes after I got off the bike.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those are super competitive. Those guys are ridiculous.
They're pros, like they're
Yeah.
pros. They make a ton of money to do it too, and they're like 25, not 26.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was running up to that finish line. I got to hear the call. Mike Riley, yell out, "Chris Bonfoco, you're an Ironman!" Like, I waited so long to hear that. Like, get to the finish line, stomp down. Of course they had this stupid fucking rule that we're gonna get into, where it's like, as soon as you finish,
put a mask on.
You gotta put your mask on. Like, you realize I've been running around these people all fucking day, right? Like,
Yeah.
And my heart rate's at like 165. My heart rate's been over 160 for like the last 6 hours.
Yeah.
And well, not six, but the run, the last like 3 hours of the run. Like, I am not putting a fucking mask on, right? So I go up, and then of course, so you put on your mask, but then they got Michelob Light right there. Here's a beer.
Yeah, here's a beer. What do I do? I don't fucking know.
Through my mask. Do that. You know how that band in the U.S.
Yeah, they cut the hole in the mask.
That's cognitive dissonance. So anyway, yeah, I finished. And it was great. So when you're talking about the poop, later that night, I woke up at 1 a.m. and I pooped until 3. Until 3.
Yeah.
Well, that sodium and all that.
That happens in MMA too, because you cut weight, so it fucks up your system. Then you fight, and then like at 3 a.m, you're like, oh no, here it goes. Yeah, that's what happened after that specific fight too, and every fight after that, if we have to travel or whatever, I'll get in and I'll be like at 3 a.m. No, yeah, it's over, because your system, it shuts down for that competition, and obviously from an MMA perspective, from a weight cut, your system shuts down, other than your pee, right? And by that time too, guys have reduced their diet so much that you're not shitting like normal. So all of a sudden, like once you eat a meal, like that fucking thing winds back up. You're like, uh-oh. But I mean, that sounds like a ridiculous, like when I say ridiculous, I mean in a good way, a ridiculous experience. Because like, I mean, just the distances alone, like there's no part of me that wants to do what you just did. And I say that respectfully, not like as in a shitty way, but like it's just the distance, the work that goes into it, and forget all of that. It's like being able to stay focused on a task for that amount of time.
Yeah, it's a really bizarre feeling. Like, and I rewinded in my head. I'm sure you saw my post after I described it as cool, like the best party I've ever attended. Right? Like, it's weird the places your mind go. And I love that feeling. Right? Like I kind of got away from endurance sport when I really started getting heavy into mixed martial arts. But it's in me, right? I grew up with it. I was a row, right? So that pain, that I dig it. Like, I really dig it. Like you have to connect with your why. And the reason I did it was, I'm a human being. We all, a couple of reasons. We all make mistakes. We all do things maybe we regret. We also have inside of us, and people will look at someone like me and be like, well, that guy's so so confident.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I haven't gone hard enough in my life, right? I feel like I haven't done things I've done, and I, like, me, like I go hard, right? But I felt like I wasn't tough enough. Like, mentally, I felt like maybe I doubted myself mentally, and I was like, I need to do this. I needed to do it, not only to take away any of those demons of self-doubt, of course I still have doubts, but of self-doubt, like to trust myself, and as well as to forgive myself for mistakes I've made. It's a very spiritual thing. Yeah.
And like I haven't done it since the pandemic, but for a lot of my knee stuff, I was doing a shitload of swimming, right? And there would be like I would go at 6 a.m. with all the old fucking guys. Only the old people wake up that early, and they would do the Olympic size pool.
What you
So
say?
yeah, so they would do the they would do the Olympic length of the cause it was at the Pan Am Center, here, and I would get like there would be a point where like the fatigue would start kicking in the middle of the pool, and I'm like, okay, there's nothing around me. I can't fucking like grab a ledge or nothing like that. So I'd have to like refocus, and then so what I would end up doing is before I even started swimming, I'd pick like three topics, just three topics that I would curious about, and I'd just think about them while I was swimming. And lo and behold, after that, it would be because that's one of the of all the crazy shit you just mentioned. One of the things I probably could handle is the swim because I have swam for an hour plus just for rehab purposes. But I would pick a topic and I would just think about it, like
Yeah.
because it was I'm not swimming for speed. I was just swimming for that generic cardio and for rehab. So there was no like pressure on me to go faster. So I could let my mind go and drift into different things. Like I was watching sorry, I was swimming one day and I'm like, how do they move the pool? Like the floor goes up and down. So I thought about that for like a fucking hour. I'm like, I'm like, what are
Yeah.
the? Because you're staring at the floor, right? You're like, how does the floor move up and down? Let me think about that. And then before you know it, you're like, oh, I've done my however many kilometers I set to do, and that's the one thing that like for a sport like mixed martial arts or even football, your 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 focus only has to be there for 5 minutes, but it's still fucking hard. But like then to put it in perspective, well, you have to have a focus of like 100 and however many fucking kilometer ride. That's like you know what I mean. Yeah, like you have to maintain a certain level of focus for that amount of time. It's stupid.
Well, and it's dangerous if you don't, right?
Yeah,
Because
because there's consequences.
yeah, there was points in that ride because like I averaged 33.1. That's overall. Like there was large stretches of that ride. I was going over 40 kilometers an hour, right? And you hit a pothole. You in that kind of race, you're not. That's why they don't let you draft too, because they don't want the injuries. And plus,
Yeah,
Ironman tries to make you suffer as much as possible,
exactly.
but
Yeah,
they take good care of you, right? Like you're taking bottle like. So I said if I after I finished, I was like, if I see a freaking Gatorade for the next 4 weeks, I'm gonna barf. It's like I drank too much Gatorade. But yeah, and that focus, it's interesting because I think it's from rowing. I'm very able to focus on a singular mundane task for a very long time. Like, because rowing is the same thing.
yeah.
And for years, I went up and down the same channel every day, a couple times a day for an hour to 3 hours at a time, right? So, and just like Placencia here, riding in Placencia, I mean, this is Belize. There's like one road. If you get lost in Belize, like something's wrong because there's not enough roads.
Just find the fucking road and you're back.
Right? Like
Yeah,
South Park when they go to Canada and they're like
yeah.
they end up in the wrong place. They're like, I thought you said there's only one road in Canada. I didn't say there was only one road in Canada. You went the wrong way down the road.
Yeah. Speaking of Canada, holy fuck. Remember when we talked last time? We like it's hard to put it in words. I every since 2019, we've always every New Year's, me and my wife will sit down. We'll be like, this year ain't gonna be much different. This year ain't gonna be much different. And then this year we sat down on New Year's again, and we thought the same, and we were right. Now, I mean, it's always interesting talking to you because you're not living here, so you get to see it from a different kind of perspective, an unbiased perspective, because you're not directly affected by certain things that are happening here. I mean, obviously, you guys had shit going on there as well, but it's not the same, right? Um,
They don't have the infrastructure to try to enact the same type of tyranny that they're enacting in Canada.
yeah. And so, the last time we spoke, the one thing you said that there would be an event, right? And they would try to make it very similar. The government and the media would try to manipulate it to make it very similar to what happened in the U.S. the
January 6th.
insurrection, right? And you know, now we've come to that moment, and to be quite honest, it's the most hope I've had for this country in my lifetime. Now that I think back on the like my young life, the most hope I've had, and I think I was texting you about this a few weeks ago. We went out for the Freedom Rally in January, and that was my first experience ever going to a protest. Because before that, my stupid ignorant ass would be like, "Oh, why do you have to protest? Right? Like, fucking just make the changes from home. Do whatever you like." I didn't understand why, what drove people to that mechanism, right? That outlet. And in the last 3 weeks, it's really changed my opinion and me as a man, because now I see why people do those things. And like everybody's reason is different. You had climate protests, all sorts of different protests. But I mean, some protests are dumb as fuck. I'm just gonna put that out there. But I understand now. I understand why people do something like that. And like you were saying to me, but it was like you were in a sense of community, right? And for so long, for 2.5 years, and I shouldn't say this, but credit to fucking the government. They've done a good job at making you feel alone, right? It's part of this whole reset process of isolation. That was the first thing that you do, like, and part of mass psychosis is the isolation factor of mass psychosis is the most important part of it, right? To isolate the human being, isolate the mind, isolate the thoughts into this state where now you are vulnerable to the propaganda, right? That they're spewing out. And while we did a good job of it, we also started to feel like we were the only people who thought the way we thought, that we didn't have freedom. And for the first time in 3 years, it didn't feel that way. There was and this is we haven't had a chance to go out to the convoys yet, which we probably will next weekend if everything's still going. But the people are just so fucking nice. It was one of the most like
No,
one of
they're
the
insurrectionists and racists and misogynists.
one of the most welcoming environment. Like, we couldn't stay out long because it was -30, and we had the kids with us, so my son started freaking out after about an hour. But for an hour, there was not one negative vibe. Everyone was talking to everybody. There was people of all different aspects of the situation. People who got waxed, people who didn't got waxed, people who lost jobs, people who were just there because they didn't agree with anything that was going on, and people who were just there because they want to feel love again in the communities and in Canada. And that was to me the start of something that was happening right now. And you know, from your perspective, how have you guys been seeing what's been going on in terms of the convoy and the quote quote occupation, which I'm going to get to because I hate that fucking word. I think it's bullshit.
Well, yeah, it's why I moved. I told you when I moved why I was moving.
Yeah.
So far ahead of this, I'm more grateful for my education in the last 2 years than I've ever been. Right? Like, people would joke with me before, like, you're an MMA coach and a trainer. What's the point of the history degree?
Yeah.
I didn't go to university to get a job. I went to university to get an education. I knew I would get a job.
Yeah.
Right. And I almost went to law school to do that, but I changed my mind. Got sick of school. So I did public relations as postgraduate. So anyway, to kind of rewind, like, how I see things, I've been on the podcast before. I spoke about it. You guys are familiar with my take on fascism. I was calling this out for fascism years before everyone was calling it communism.
Yeah.
And we'll get back to that in a second. But when I was taking my degree, I took it very seriously. I really enjoyed studying. I had a wonderful professor, Dr. Taylor. and he was the one. I took all of his courses because I was started with modern history of Europe, followed by as you go through university you get more narrow, and I ended up focusing on the rise of fascism in Germany from 1919 until 1932.
Yeah.
In one of our lectures, well, it wasn't just the lectures. Dr. Taylor was very good at always going back to the point, right? Right from the beginning of the semester through the semester, almost every one of his lectures, he'd bring it. He would ask a question at the beginning of every lecture, like, how did the most educated and arguably the most cultured country at the time succumb to this madman? He would start almost every lecture that way, and then he would go to the different topic. And one lecture we talked about is when, and I take this very seriously, it's like, who is responsible for the Germans getting this way? And there's theories behind it as far as like they were used in monarchy, they were forced into a republic, all the way to they're just bad people, right? And that's kind of what it's digressed to in the rhetoric of today in regarding white people, right? Like it's the CRT and all that garbage. So we actually came to the conclusion in my honors class in it. There was only like 6 of us who took the course, and we came to the conclusion that it was the historians' fault. We were falling on the bullet, and the reason behind it was the historians kept their mouth shut. The students of history kept their mouth shut.
Yeah.
There was enough examples in history. Napoleon being the most recent one at that time. I mean, in reality, Napoleon was.
And then Genghis Khan before that, right?
Yeah, and Napoleon was only 150 years before. Well, less than that. He was like 120 years before World War II, and from the Napoleon's death from the fall of his empire, it was only 108 years.
Yeah.
So from when Hitler started hitting the political stage. So with all that said, we blame the historians. So I gotta let this out. Like, I put a big post yesterday. I'm sure you saw it.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
I am deeply disturbed of what's happened with that post. I've been getting shadow banned every time I do that. I can tell. That post, Henry sent me what he sees on my post.
Yeah.
Because he messaged me, I can't see it. It's been deleted. Almost like I'm sharing this conspiracy theorist Nazi film. I was sharing a documentary from Timeline.
Yeah.
Timeline, a mainstream source, History Channel. In Canada, they blocked it out. They said this you don't have approval to see this. Henry showed me. You'll see it on your Facebook. I can't believe this. This is vetted. History.
Oh, you better believe it. Cause think about this. Yesterday, after all their announcements, what people here are trying to do, they're starting to flood the politicians' social media with comments just to like fuck over their Facebook. I had written something on Doug Ford's post, and I put the word "stupid" in it, and it quickly, while it said post, it gave me 10-second countdown to retract the word "stupid" before I would be violating a community guideline. Right? That's how, like, even the comment algorithms are stopping you from expressing anything. You know what I mean? And so, like, I'm not surprised, but at the same time, it makes me weep for freedom of speech, because it's just, I mean, we've come to this point, right? Where like the only way to freely speak right now is doing this method that we're doing right now. Because I could put this out. I don't give a shit about cancel. Like, I'm not big enough where you can cancel me. I could put this out on multiple different platforms. It'll still get out, but you can't write anymore. And that's where I feel like where this has gone to is like journalism is dead. Because if you put words on screen or on paper, they have to fit a certain narrative now, or they won't allow you to distribute that method of communication. You know what I mean? Whereas the reason why, and it was unsuccessful, the cancellation of Joe Rogan was unsuccessful, is because, one, he's big as fuck, his show brings in more ratings and more viewers than combined all the network televisions,
All of
um,
them combined.
all of them combined. And
11 million people per.
two, Spotify is a company. They're not stupid. That's how you lose a lot of fucking money. And three, you can't censor a conversation, right? Like what are you gonna do to Joe? Like
You can't clip it, right? Long form conversation. Like look what they tried to do to Dr. Peterson, right?
yeah,
And when they showed, they got arrogant and showed it in long form, and it was a completely opposite conversation.
exactly. You can't like you can clip it up and like I know they put out the I didn't even watch it because I wasn't gonna give it any viewership ratings. I didn't give shit like they put out a conversation or montage of him using the N word from back 10, 15 years when he started podcasting. Um, Anything can look bad when you clip stuff out and do it like that, but you didn't take it out of context. And I thought it was great what Israel Adesanya did yesterday because somebody at the press conference brought up Joe Rogan, and then he's like, "Hold on, let me take this. I'm black, so I can fucking talk about this." And he's like, and he straight up he was like, "Joe Rogan, that's my nigga right there." He's like, "I'll fuck all the bullshit," and he like squat like so. In all essence, like the journalism in its purest form, in my opinion, is gone, and I'm hoping that the few of them that are there that are left can have the metal to deal with the bullshit and sort of keep going, right? But
So, yeah, this is like I have a unique education in this exact subject because with my history background and my postgraduate in public relations, right? Like journalists, they're not journalists anymore. They're
no,
hacks. They're flacks. There's a hack and a flack, right? A hack is a journalist, a flack is a public relations person. They work hand in hand.
yeah,
They're not doing journalism anymore. They're doing public relations.
yeah,
Public
100%.
relations is the art of persuasion. It's not reporting news.
News,
It's
yeah,
it's persuading. That's all it is, right? So it's like this whole scenario. Like I've been calling it for a long time, and I'll explain it one more time again about the political paradigm. The political people are so confused about what's actually going on. If you ask most people what's fascism, right? They're gonna give you maybe like at one time I was on a YouTube argument because I have to pick an argument a day. It keeps me
it keeps me sharp, keeps me up.
um, so I said, well, I explained what fascism actually is, and he said, how come nobody's saying it? This is what it is. He gives me a dictionary definition. I always love replying to people like that. It's like, oh, that's a very sweet book report you just did there, right? It doesn't show that you understand a damn thing that you just did.
Yeah,
So the reason why people are confused about fascism, and I studied it for 4 years. I was even confused. It's so hard to nail down. The reason why is it's the same thing as communism, right? So we're told it's on the opposite end, but it's not. Like I've talked about the far left. See, you have on the left, you have people seek authority. On the right, you have people seek liberty,
yeah,
right? Now, this doesn't mean that pure liberty is great because that is a fantasy, just like communism is,
yeah,
right? It's a fusion of the two, right? It's just when people try to say, "Oh, you don't believe in socialism, but you believe you have socialized healthcare,"
yeah.
right? I can get into that, but that doesn't mean it's because there's a balance. There's a balance. If you have government programs, that doesn't mean that you're living under authority, right?
Yeah.
You still have your liberties, but the government is stepping in. That's not a bad thing. It's like when they talk about the Star Trek.
They're more of a mediator.
Yeah, I like to end arguments with the Star Trek things. It either makes people think you're smart or you're stupid, and then
Yeah.
right. So when you bring up the Star Trek thing, like people think that's communism. It's not. There's clearly in the Star Trek world, they have money, they go places, they spend money. Like it's just basic needs are very easily taken care of to the point where human beings now can focus more on contributing back rather than having to find for themselves. They no longer live in a scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
Right. Um, so anyway, with fascism, it is far left. It's totalitarianism. No matter how you look at it, it's totalitarianism. Communism, when it starts, and it falls very quickly because it's the intelligentsia, which is like basically students, inexperienced people. Which is why people who don't live in the real world believe in communism, right? They're usually young people whose minds are easily pliable, and they happen to they have an unjaded look at the world
Yeah,
at that point, or these academics who are irresponsible because they've never actually lived a day in their life outside. Like, it sort of drives me crazy when I see like a professor of business who's never owned a business,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Like the Back to School movie with Rodney Dangerfield, right?
Yeah,
The religious.
but I mean, they do that all the time on a lot of these news networks. They have experts,
Yeah,
economists, chief economists, like I mean, here's one of the biggest issues. A lot of the doctors that are they pull on television have never treated a fucking COVID patient.
yeah.
The
Dr.
like
Fauci hasn't seen a patient in like 40 years or something
Yeah,
ridiculous.
like I know CP24 has that Bogosh motherfucker. If I ever see him in real life, I'm gonna call him a couple pieces of shit. But he hasn't treated COVID patient. Like these are people who are they're bringing on. Like if you were really that busy, if the hospital wards were really that fucked,
What?
you wouldn't have the time to be sitting down for 15, 20 minutes, getting all dressed up, decking yourself out, doing fucking Zoom calls on CP24 every fucking morning. No, you wouldn't have that time. You wouldn't have the time. And
And you wouldn't
so
be firing medical professionals either.
exactly. So I mean, here's where I think this is falling apart for Justin Trudeau and for the governments is that you know they didn't account and I'm trying to connect all these dots, right? And here's one of the dots I've connected over the last 2 days was I think you remember this last time we talked there was the bill C10 was in play, right? That was Trudeau's internet censorship bill. Basically if that passed at that certain time that would have given him the right to basically censor the fucking internet like they do in China and other countries. Regulate content that's being put out there. Things like I'm doing right now, I would have to find some sort of black market means to put out on the internet because I basically wouldn't have my Wi-Fi wouldn't let me do it. Right? My phone, nothing would let me post a conversation like this. That's the style of the legislature that he drafted. Now it didn't pass. So I'm of the belief that the reason for the election was called was not necessarily just because he thinking he was going to win a majority, but because by calling that election and dissolving government and re-putting it in, Bill C11 is now in play. It's the exact same thing, but worse, right? The only problem is that bill's a little too late, right? It was a little too late for this trucker convoy. And so this convoy goes rolling in and people are fucking peaceful. They're not doing shit. They're not insurrecting. They're not, what the news Canadian media likes to call it a siege on Ottawa. There's no fucking siege, right?
Got in an argument with someone yesterday on Facebook. It was my morning my daily argument. um, it's like she's like it's an occupation. And I'm like, well, it's an occupation, but the police are allowed to come in and out, and government
Yeah.
officials come
No,
in
no,
and
what
out.
was happening in
Now,
Seattle was an occupation.
who's the mayor of Truckistan? They
Yeah.
haven't declared a mayor of Truckistan, so or a prime minister of Truckistan. So how are they occupying anything,
No,
right?
occupation is what was happening in Seattle where they put blockades. They weren't letting people. You can walk fucking freely through Parliament if you want to. There's just a couple trucks. There's a bunch of trucks on the road. That's about it. But where I
Civil.
was, where I was going with this was, so these truckers roll in, and this whole situation unfolds, and the media automatically doesn't give it attention. They don't play it at all because the first weekend it was going on, you couldn't find any news on mainstream media is wrong. It's corporate media. It's corporate run media. You couldn't find any information on it.
Foundation of fascism, by the way.
Yeah. So corporate media, you couldn't find any stories on the protest. The only way you can find out what was going on that first weekend the convoy pulled in was either by Rebel News, the only honest media outlet, which still has its flaws, by the way. I'm not completely, team Rebel News, but the only way you could find that was that or independent videos people were posting separately. Um, Following that, they used planted people, which were clearly planted of Confederate and Nazi flags. Only one incident. What?
Yeah, and that Nazi flag thing, I need to jump in on that.
Yeah.
The way they use their rhetoric, right? It's the same way. It's exactly. This is to the T of how the National Socialists did it in Germany. The swastika that Justin Trudeau is seeing is an expression of the protesters showing him the behavior of his government.
Yeah.
They are not standing behind the swastika. They were showing it as a symbol of protest. They are protesting the swastika. So when the news shows that, and they take it out of context, it is very sad to see how pliable and ignorant so many people in the Canadian society are. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, with these people, when they talk about white supremacists and stuff, since when has there been a white supremacist issue in Canada? Where are these people?
Yeah, I'd like to find them. I'd like to know where they are because.
You want to kick their ass, right? Like, right?
Well, no, I'm around white people all the time. I'd like to figure out where these white supremacists are because I seem to not be able to find them. Am I blind, or what? But I seem to not be able to find any of these fucking white supremacists they're talking about.
Exactly.
And
you live in Toronto, so I mean, it's the biggest city in the country. I mean,
yeah.
There's got to be. Are they just really that stealth?
Well, my other question is, where the fuck are these Nazis and Confederate flags now? They showed up one day. Do you think it's if there was really a hate behind the movement, you wouldn't just show up for one day?
Well, and just like the Terry Fox statue.
Yeah, and I mean, so going back to what I was saying, so we have this movement that's happening, and the media uses those simple images to portray it for the first week, right? To say, okay, if we use those images, if we use that messaging, it's, based on the last 2 years, we're going to get the response we wanted. People will condemn it. People will turn it down. But here's where this is, in my opinion, it fell apart, is you can't censor the internet, and Justin Trudeau failed to do it. He's bringing in a new bill, but it's too late, fucking Justin. It's too fucking late. The actual images of what was going on was out there. People were seeing that, there's a fucking bouncy castle for kids to play in. You have people playing hockey. It's the most Canadian fucking thing. They're playing hockey in the middle of the fucking street, pickup hockey games, barbecuing for each other, taking care of one another, fucking cleaning up the statue after all the bullshit, cleaning it up with freaking toothbrushes, shining it, spit shining it. People are shoveling the streets for the streets are more shoveled than if you let the city do it. They're doing things that are not indicative of a siege. And now those images are circulating the internet, and you can't fucking get rid of them. Because one of the issues too is that I don't think they accounted for TikTok, and China is very smart with this. China does a lot of manipulation with TikTok, where and I saw an article on this, if you use TikTok in China, you'll see a lot of educational things pushed, entrepreneurial videos. Whereas if you use it in North America, it's a bunch of kids fucking dancing, right? The algorithms are designed.
Or nurses.
Yeah, the algorithm, or nurses or doctors, because they're so busy. The algorithms are designed to reward that behavior here and not over there, right? It's brilliant, by the way. It's fucking brilliant by them. And TikTok, you can't fucking censor right now because China's not going to let it happen. So a lot of the videos are circulating through TikTok, and TikTok is huge. That's why Facebook is losing so much market space. And you can see the parallels between what the media is reporting and what's actually happening. And that's where they're losing this battle. That's why it's caught on so much around the world. That's why people are drawn to it. That's why, I think if Americans hop on board, which they might do this weekend and fuck up the Super Bowl, I'm all on board for that. That's why the Ambassador Bridge is happening. It's funny, they put in I don't know if you saw this, Doug Ford put in a state of emergency yesterday. All that showed to me was you are fucking screaming in your boots. You're desperate. You don't know what to do.
Well, I've been following a lot of Tim Pool on this. I'm sure you watched Tim Pool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's been calling the truckers have won. Like, he's talking about civil disobedience. And what I really like about Tim Pool talking about this particular subject, especially, like I enjoy his podcast a lot, is that he he's been to many of these things, right? He's been boots on the ground journalist, so he knows how these go, and he knows what's successful, like when he sees successful protesters and when he's seen failed ones, right?
Yeah.
What the Ford government and the Trudeau government are experiencing right now is that they're learning in real time. I posted this today. Governments need the consent of the governed to govern.
Yes.
They are learning right now the consequences of losing that consent. The language being used, I'm going to go on for a bit here.
Yeah.
The language being used by the media is so pathetic and obvious at this point. It's absolutely miraculous that anybody follows it, right? Like the siege, the occupation, the insurrection. They're pumping all these same buzzwords. They're empty words. These are empty words.
Yeah.
They're using these because of the mass psychosis, which is real.
Yep.
They tried to play down Dr. Malone on it. It is real. I studied it, like not psychology, but it was one of the topics we studied with Nazi propaganda.
Yeah.
Was how it hypnotized the people. It's called drip propaganda. Okay.
Yeah.
So, like the plane's taken off. It's drip propaganda. So they're just dripping on you. It's just like marketing. Drip marketing, like just drip, drip, drip. Sooner or later, the client's eyes see it enough and they pick it up.
Yeah.
In human beings' cases, the more they see it, the more they pick it up. Right.
And it's never been a better time, especially during a pandemic, and you've isolated the population with lockdowns, rolling lockdowns, rolling restrictions, mandates. There's never been a better time to be vulnerable, put it that way.
Exactly. So they continue to use these words, but I think the mistake they've made is the people weren't as hypnotized as they thought. I mean, there are a lot. I mean, like Yuri Bezmenov talks about it when he was discussing how to subvert a society. And if you tell someone something for X amount of
Bezmenov, that sorry to interrupt you. That was the Russian who told about the that 20-year process it takes to
how to subvert a nation.
Yeah.
That he was a journalist in the Soviet Union.
Yeah. Okay, now I remember. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Continue.
So he discussed it, and there's a point where no matter what you say, you can't change somebody's mind. Like they've gotten so hypnotized.
Yeah.
I got in that same argument in my daily argument yesterday was I haven't had a good one yet today.
You should start a forum with a daily argument by Chris Bonfoco and just let people shoot a topic at you. Be like, all right, here we go. Let's go. Hey, why not? People make money off of stupider shit. I can see why you shouldn't do that. New revenue stream from Belize, right?
So right. So I had asked her a series of questions because she was like, "This needs to end, this occupation," and I said it's not. And I didn't argue with her because it's on a woman who was a grandmother. I respect elderly people.
Yeah.
And she was a grandmother of some students I used to train up in Canada, and her friends, I've watched on Facebook, watching her friends pile on her, and she made her post like, "I'll take it down if it causes too much division." I'm like, "No, don't you dare take this down. That's what they want, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing that you're saying is wrong here. You're allowed to express yourself." And I commented on that woman saying it's an occupation. I asked her a series of questions, all right, and she eventually in the thing she's like, "Geez, would you stop saying that I'm gaslit?" I said, "Okay, fine. I retract that you're gaslit." Now, I only meant it to try to engage. I felt guilty, like the Dr. Peterson always said, like he felt bad over that one interview with that British woman because he got to she pissed him off to the point where he's like, "I'm going to win this argument rather than try to enable conversation."
Try to have a conversation,
Yeah. So I was trying to keep my language down. I screwed up at the beginning because I said you're gaslit, right? I should not have said that.
Yeah.
Right. So I said, okay, I retract saying that you're gaslit, but can you? What I do ask though is ask yourself if it's possible for you to be gaslit. Right?
Yeah.
She wouldn't answer any of my questions. She refused to enter debate. And she says she's not gaslit. And she said this is I knew she was totally gaslit, not just from saying occupation, but she had said something like it's an insurrection or they're trying to overthrow the government. Bang, you're gaslit. Where has this attempt happened? Right? That has not happened. That is just empty words. Yeah. So the other issue here, so I'm saying about the meeting. Then I saw another thing yesterday. Because they're using all these buzzwords. and they're empty. I mean, they're in people's heads, and it's enraptured them.
Yeah.
I hope that's the right word. And they're, but a lot of people are falling out now because now when you said about the video, right? Like the news is saying one thing, and then people are like Viva Fry is doing a great job there, and you watch what CBC says, and you watch what Viva Fry is doing. It's like two entirely different worlds. So someone commented that on one of your posts the other day or yesterday, something like that. I don't know. Yeah. So, or you commented on theirs, and I commented with you. So, but anyway, so anyway, CTV post said this is such a shame. They're peeling their logos off of their car. They're peeling their logos off of their car, and they're saying this is such a shame that they need this because they've been told because it's so scary. This pretend violence. And I've commented, like, you got what you get. You get what you deserve. You've been lying to people for 2 years. You've been calling people names. You are not a victim. You are the bully.
Yes,
right?
100%.
And I always finish when I go after the media. Do not forget, journalists did not escape Nuremberg either.
Yeah.
Okay. There was journalists who hanged, and they damn well deserved to. Right. So, and I'm against the death penalty.
Yeah.
Right?
No, he's not encouraging people to get hanged, by the way. Everybody fucking.
So, on top of this, you have Justin Trudeau's rhetoric. He tweets that the House of Commons has come to a unanimous decision denouncing the anti-Semitism, the misogyny, the racism, I don't know. You just keep going.
You keep going. It's all
xenophobia, all the things that they have witnessed in the last couple of days. Now, that is a strategic statement by a tyrant. This was an exact strategy used by Nazi Germany. This was used by the National Socialist Party when they got to power. And the way it is used is this. Well, if I say to you, Ashton, do you denounce racism?
Of course.
So there's your answer. And that's what he's doing. Well, you're asking a question that can have no other answers. And what they're doing by using this and labeling people, and they've been doing this for the past few years. Well, it's been happening for a very long time, but it's gone on hyperspeed the last couple of years. It's gone exponential. Is they're not attempting to engage in conversation. They're shutting it down, right? So fear is it's underestimated, right? So you get people, they're afraid to lose their job to speak out. Like I posted this on one of my posts the other day on Facebook about Germany, and it wasn't only the Jew. It's like and we've seen this exactly happen. So the first people, by the way, arrested in the concentration camps in Germany were not Jews.
Yeah.
Well, some of them were. It wasn't targeted Germans. There's communists, capitalists, liberals, conservatives. It was any dissenting like part of society. Anybody who's
the fringe minority, if you will.
Exactly. So fear is what's used. So the Jew, for example, when they became really a heavy target as the 30s escalated in Germany, if you spoke out and said, I don't support what the government's doing to Jewish people, you were now a Jew.
Yeah.
And that would have an effect on your social standing and on your job. So the way the government in Canada is calling this an anti-vax protest, they are right. It is an anti-vax protest. But ask me why.
Yeah, tell me why.
Okay.
Why, Chris? Why?
The definition of anti-vax changed twice in 2021.
Oh, yeah.
A summary of it is the very first anti-vax definition was someone who doesn't take vaccinations. They're against vaccinations.
Simple.
They changed it. It now became people against the current inoculations. Okay?
Yeah.
And then in November 2021, they changed it to people who are against the current inoculation. Now, they didn't use the word inoculation. I just hate to call it what they're trying to call it.
Yeah.
Because they had to change the definition of that too.
Yeah.
Right? In order for that to fit. They changed that in July of 2021. The word vaccine had to have a change in definitions. Current inoculations could be classed under them.
Yeah.
So this is not misinformation. You can look it up on the internet.
If it's not
So,
misinformation, it's disinformation. It's one of the two.
and you must, I guess you got to burn Merriam-Webster
Yeah,
then.
yeah,
So to change the anti-vaxxer to anyone who's against the current inoculations and anyone who may have taken it and are against government mandates.
yeah.
It's look it up. Like I will get off the podcast.
No,
It
no,
is,
I've looked it up already. I've seen
yeah,
what you're talking about.
yeah, it is frightening that this is going on. So just like I don't like what the government's doing with those Jews, you're now the Jew,
Yeah,
right? So
100%.
now if you support, and this is going to affect your job, this is going to affect your social standing. Fortunately, because of the internet, this small fringe minority is not so fringe. Like
No,
you said with protests, you actually felt like your voice was heard for the first time in a couple of years, and they've made it. And so this is where I'm getting with the fear.
and I didn't even say shit there. I was just soaking it all in. I wasn't even speaking. I was like, people were just, like, in 2 years. We'll get back to what you're saying in a second, but I just want to bring this up. In 2 years, I haven't like complete strangers came up to my kids. They were sitting in their little wagon, and they're like, "Oh, you guys, here, let me get you some flag." And they gave them little Canadian flags, and they're all friendly to the kids. And for 2 years, I live at fucking Yonge and Eglinton. For 2 years, everyone will walk by to my two kids and think nothing of them. For the first time in 2 years, somebody walked by and was like, "Oh my God, these are children. Let me interact with them." Right? It was like in my head, I'm like, and I just and I'm. It was almost like I was weirded out by it, but I was not. I was like, wow, this is what this has done to be. Like, I'm strong enough, and then me and my wife are strong enough to withstand this. But I'm like, there are some people who are still out there thinking that strangers, nice strangers coming up and doing a good thing to other people is not acceptable anymore. And I'm like, and I was like, wow, I missed this. This is what humans are. Sorry, and go back to sorry.
And you're in the big city, by the way, makes it even worse. Like living here in Belize, a low population, third world country, like people here are so freaking helpful. It's
Yeah,
unbelievable.
yeah. No,
But
people here are dicks.
so because we need each other, right? You get a
Yeah,
flat tire, like someone's got to help you,
someone's got to
right?
help you. Yeah,
Anyway, so where was I? I was saying about fear, right? So everyone's afraid to lose their job and stuff. Well, that's exactly how they did it. That fears it's underestimated. The regime, the Nazi regime, wouldn't bother you until you stepped out of line, and then it would do nasty things to you.
yeah,
And this is exactly what's happening on Facebook, right? So like Joe Rogan is speaking against the establishment, and now they make an edited clip of him dropping N-bombs to try to make it seem like he is a racist. This is mind control.
yeah,
This is fascism. Like there's no way around it. These idiot kids the last few years, while Trump was in office and calling him a fascist and stuff, it's like you don't know what it is.
yeah,
Like you think it has to be this thing that's directed at this exact group, like just like it was directed at the Jewish in particular in the 1930s, but everything is metaphorical, right? Like it could be like any other sort of group. And Trudeau, look at his rhetoric. How long are we going to tolerate those people?
yeah,
Vaccinated people don't deserve to sit beside someone unvaccinated.
yep.
This is a small fringe minority with unacceptable views.
Unacceptable. That one was what really triggered me. Um, what gives you the right to classify my view as unacceptable? First
Yes,
of all,
and by saying that it's unacceptable and
exactly.
accepting that it's unacceptable, that's censorship. You
Yeah,
control what people see and hear, and you censor it. You control their thoughts. Okay, Dr. Peterson went off about this huge a couple of years ago,
yeah,
right? When you change language, you change the way people think, right? Just like how it's just like right out of 1984, the Ministry of Truth. If the word's not fit, you're just gonna change it. Is it like war is peace, freedom is slavery? Um,
yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
yeah, I got to think of the other one. But anyway, all these things, it's double speak, right? And these people are masters of double speak, and so many people haven't said anything. So for a while, I was like, Chris, I got to back off of this stuff because like I got a good following on Facebook, and I don't want to lose that. It's important for what I do, and I'm moving into a very digital sort of way of operating with my weight loss program because
yeah,
it's making me nomadic. I want to be nomadic. I don't want to be stuck in a fixed area. I love it here. I want to stay here, but if I get the heebie-jeebies like I did in Canada, I'm gone.
yeah,
Right. So, and I got my my Mexican residency.
He's always one step ahead.
Right. So, um, yeah, and the people, like I said, in the camps, they weren't just Jews, right? I took some notes here. I had to write it down to keep my thoughts straight.
Yeah,
Um, and they the opposition. What did they do to the opposition, right? So look at what they've done to the Conservative Party of Canada and the Republican Party in the United States, right? They're automatically referred to as racist in the media. All the ists and isms. It doesn't. If you are a Republican, you are all these ists and isms.
Well, the terminology they use now is right wing, referring to and correct me if I'm wrong, but okay, I'm I'm a bird guy. I'm the dirty bird,
Yeah.
right? A wing span, right? So what they're trying to do by using right wing and left wing is to show the extremes of it, whereas the actual animal is in the middle, right? The actual
Yes,
bird.
knowledge.
Yeah,
Nice.
you like
I like that, man.
right?
That's good. Yeah.
So centrism in the middle, where society should function and democracy should function well, is the bird, the actual bird. The flight of the bird is the extension of it, right? And by claiming things are right wing or left wing, you're automatically giving this illusion to people that it's at the extremes. So they label all conservative movements as an extreme.
Yeah, and they've used it through their double speak and news speak, all the stuff from 1984. And it really makes me sick, by the way, how many people say they've read 1984. They haven't read 1984.
Yeah.
Or Animal Farm. It's another great one, right? Like, guys, read it.
I've read Animal Farm. I have to get on to the other one.
You read Animal Farm because it's 93 pages. That's what I
read there. Yeah. Because I'm not. Well, why do you think I do podcasts? I'm not a big reader. I get my education through conversation. That's my.
Yeah, right. So yeah, and you're saying that's why I said, like, they make it seem like the right wing or all these things, and they use it constantly with the drip propaganda. Like, the propaganda that they use is used exactly the same way that the Nazis used it. Is it the propaganda makes their message and their policies seem palatable?
Yeah,
it makes it seem palatable. So let's break down Justin Trudeau, how he's like, and I see a lot of people on that side of things saying, we just had an election and go back to the polls. You had your chance, you lost. This is what we do. That is the tyranny of the majority, but it's not the majority.
No, and when you break down numbers from the election,
you see me. I broke it down in my post yesterday. Did you read it?
It's just like the Conservative Party still got more votes in the last two elections. The Conservative Party still got more votes. That's why when people say Canada is like America is so divided, I'm like, Canada is way more divided. When you break down our political systems, we have no fucking clear set ideology for democracy here.
Yeah, like these people. No, we have a democracy.
Yeah.
It's not a functioning democracy right now, but
no, because what I mean is clear set. I mean, like, we have a democracy, but it's so separated by all these different political ideologies that are here.
Yeah, well, yes, and like how they keep saying, protect, and that's another one of the rhetoric they're now using in Canadian media is
protect our democracy.
The American media is saying that over and over again. The United States is not a democracy.
Yeah,
it's a constitutional republic, right? Yeah. Because democracy, this is a great line. Well, this isn't the line, but democracy is tyranny of the majority. So the way I think it was Benjamin Franklin said, democracy is two wolves and a sheep discussing what's for lunch.
Yeah.
A republic is two wolves with a heavily armed sheep.
Yeah.
Okay? So Justin Trudeau, he talks about our democracy. This man, like Hitler talked to Spain.
Same way.
People have in their minds that this tyrannical, like, they literally believe this because they can't break down their thoughts, that this tyrannical warmonger managed to manipulate the masses. Well, how do you manipulate the masses? You don't show up on the street with your thugs and beat everybody up and then they submit.
No.
It's psychological.
Yeah.
You beat them with compassion, fake compassion, right?
Yeah.
Compassionate sociopaths. These are the people who are the tyrants, right? This is Justin Trudeau.
Well, I mean, you can see it from his speech yesterday. Canadians have been there for one another through the pandemic.
That
They've
is
been
exactly Nazi rhetoric. Sorry, like
they've been supporting each other throughout the pandemic. They're doing the
one
right
right,
thing.
one people, one
Yeah,
Führer. That's
they're-
what he's talking right
yeah, and it's the only time in my history of my life where I've wanted to punch the fucking radio out of my car because I'll listen to it when I'm busy. I'm traveling from practice to clients and all that kind of stuff, and I listen to it so I can like my wife gets mad. She's like, "You listen to too much of that shit. We need to like get away from it." But I listen to it because it numbs me to the propaganda. Every time I listen to it, and I can resist the urge to like feel anything when that man is talking, it
Yeah.
makes me stronger to resist the bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, well, I feel like I'm like, why I'm ahead of stuff is I want to stop. Like the other day, I was feeling like physically ill because of it.
Yeah,
Right. And I'm like, I got to take a break from this. But I was like, that's why I've been posting so much about it. I don't want to. I want to post George, right? Like, I
yeah,
want to post how awesome life is and stuff. But then because of my history prof saying that, who's responsible? We said it was the historians. It was the people who study history. We know this. Like, we need to see the parallels. We need to understand it. History doesn't repeat, it rhymes,
yeah,
right? So you can't just wait for that person to do the exact same things that happened before. You have to see it coming slowly. So Justin Trudeau, with that rhetoric saying like that, yeah, like Canadians have done this and blah 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 blah. It's exactly what Hitler, one Reich, one people, ein Volk, ein Reich, ein Führer.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what he's saying,
yeah.
right? So someone's probably going to see this video and be like, "Oh, they're spewing just because I spoke German."
They're
You racist,
spewing hate. It's,
right?
yeah.
Right. So anyway, I keep getting derailed in my thought because it's planes. So where was I going with that? Using that rhetoric.
Using that line, that rhetoric
Oh, so back to the
to
number.
empathy, using the empathy. Yeah,
And the majority of Canadians support me, trying to come off as that compassionate leader that he pretends to be. Is 5.1 million Canadians voted for the Liberal Party 6 months ago.
yeah,
5.5, I think that was the number. It might have been a little more. Voted Conservative.
yeah,
Now, this is not about the Conservative Party and the Liberal Party because I see this all the time. People say like, "Well, I'm left wing." They wear it like it's their badge that they're good people. I'm left wing, so therefore I'm a good person. Actually, you're not. You're an authoritarian.
yeah,
And authoritarians are not good people. Liberty, if you believe in an actual real liberal, a real liberal, is not what these people call themselves,
no,
right?
100%.
So that's also why you don't call. That's why I keep beating people over the head on Facebook. Stop calling it communism, because these people who support communism, they wear it like a badge. They're like, yeah, these fascists are calling me communism. They don't like being called fascists. They don't like being called what they actually are.
Yeah,
So, but back to the numbers. These numbers here: 38 million people in Canada. 5 million voted for Justin Trudeau. Only 61% of voting Canadians voted in the election. 16 million Canadians, less than half of the country. Yes, you have your right to vote. You have your opportunity. You choose to vote or to not vote. All right. However, you do not represent the majority of Canadians. You do not have the right to make a Canadian inject something into his or her body that they do not want to put in.
yeah, 100%.
Because you have 32.4% of the population that voted for you 6 months ago. This was before they really started getting crazy with QR codes.
Yeah, exactly.
Now that people are experiencing the reality of it, I cannot go home.
No, you can't.
I want to go see my family. I want to go see my friends. I want to ride my bike on those beautiful roads of Niagara. I want to ride down the Niagara Parkway, right? I want to crush the escarpment on my bike again. I want to go home. I want to live here, but I want to go home. I want to go there, spend like July in Canada.
Yeah,
something like that. I am not going back to a country where I require a QR code to enter. That is a fascist country. A QR code, that's for products. That's
yeah,
not for human beings, right? This is horrible. And then now they talk about this violent thing. The only violence is coming out of Justin Trudeau, Doug Ford, and the
yeah,
establishment and
yeah,
the media. There is no violence between us. And I love how it's being said, like this is civil disobedience at its finest. These truckers they're just not listening.
Yeah.
And these people are so like Tim Pool went off on a rant. Like I got to credit it. I can't just say it like it's my thought. I was like, hey, let's do something smart here. Let's take the fuel away. So now we got a bunch of big rigs we can't move.
Yeah. Like, and I mean, I saw this interview yesterday. Um, my little guy's going crazy in the back, so we got to wrap up soon. But I saw this interview yesterday, and here's where this whole kind of thing breaks down: is that the voting system, it doesn't represent the entirety of the population. What it represents to me is Toronto and Quebec. That is what the seats dictate. If you win Toronto, if you win the GTA and you win Quebec, you pretty much guarantee yourself in office with the numbers as spread out as they are in Canada, especially now that Maxime and the PPC are starting to take votes, right? Um, what has been lost in this whole thing is the small communities. So when I'm looking at all the blockades and all the things that are happening, it's from small town people in places like Alberta, small town Ontario, Windsor, small town areas where the measures that we're taking has actually hurt those communities worse than big city, right? Because I'll use it. We went to Saugeen Shores for a little vacay last year. They have one restaurant, Chris. There's one legitimate restaurant in that town that we were staying in, and they were shut down for 2 years. You're talking about a small group, small population in the town. The economy was hurt way more in that one spot than all of Toronto, right? So these people have had enough. And when you take all these small fringes of Canada and you add them up, it's actually the majority, right? It's actually the majority of people and how they feel of Canada. And
And
I
5.1 million people who voted, the 5.1 million who voted for Justin Trudeau,
yeah,
I
and
guarantee you, a whole bunch of them do not want these mandates.
no, and I'm going to share two things before we start wrapping up. There was a town in Alberta, you know, they had the blockade in Coots, so now they've blockaded a little higher in I forgot the name of it. Small ass town. I had to look it up, and there's literally nothing there. It's a road, and there's a video, and it just got released yesterday, and of the police there, all in their little suits, all looking all intimidating, and the Canadians friggin' holding arms linked together, standing right in front of them, and they're fucking singing "Oh Canada."
Yeah, I
And
think I saw a highlight of that. Yeah.
and it was so powerful to me that I mean I got chills. You know what I mean? I got literal chills watching that video. And then I'm gonna bring it back. So I watched a Fox News report, which I'm not a mainstream guy, but I'm pissed off at Fox for calling them fucking occupations. But anyway, Fox interviewed
Tucker's been going to town, man.
Tucker. Shout out to Tucker Carlson, you fucking gangster. I love. First of all, one of brilliant journalists. He captivates me. I listen to him, and I'm fucking locked in on the screen.
He's a pundit.
Yeah, I listen to that guy, and I'm locked in on the fucking screen, and I may not.
Disguise. Oh my god.
But so Fox interviews this man, and he's standing in front of Parliament, and he says his daughter was pregnant, lost her job. I'm not sure if you saw this one.
Yeah.
She was pregnant, and they were trying to mandate her to get the vaccine before the pregnancy. It caused some complications. She didn't. I don't think she got the shot, but she had complications, so she had to leave work early. So I'm assuming she didn't qualify for her maternity leave. His son-in-law lost thousands of dollars from his business due to the mandates. His son lost his job because of the mandates. He is 60 something years old. He lost his career because of the mandates. And he said, I'm not here for me. I'm here for my kids and my grandkids so that they grow up in a place where there are none of the QR codes. They don't lose their jobs because of mandates. They don't lose anything because of that. And when I look at this man, he's almost brought to tears talking to this reporter. because he's lost everything.
I love seeing that, by the way.
He's lost
It's-
everything, right?
Yeah.
This man has lost everything. And so he said, I'm not going anywhere. So I want the government to take this message and take it fucking to heart, because you're trying to threaten people with jail time and $100,000 fines. They don't give a fuck. You've pushed these are the small town people who have lost everything, like literally everything. We're here enjoying life. I got money. I'm thankful to God that I have a good business where I can provide for my family. But I also live in a big city, so those opportunities are available to me to be able to build something like that. You're talking about people who have lost everything and they don't give a fuck. You want to threaten them with a year in jail? Well, they've been living for 2 years in jail already with what's going on in their family. So if you want to threaten them with a year of jail time, good luck, buddy. I'll go. That's what they're saying. I'll go. They're not there to get violent and push and shove and shoot. No, they're there to sit the fuck down. And if you don't want to listen to them and give them the time, even a conversation, acknowledge their existence as human beings, good luck. And sorry, you're gonna say something?
Right.
And that's where they're gonna lose this battle, because they're not fighting people who have something to lose.
Yeah,
This,
at this point, it's the truckers' battle to lose.
yeah,
Right? They've won. The truckers have won. The government just is. What I really want to see in this is it's almost like a movie. You know, in you remember the movie Varsity Blues? I think it was Varsity Blues.
yeah, yeah. First, yeah, the football one, right?
Yeah, remember when the coach um, was like, "Come on, let's get out there," and he was like, because he was a prick all the time, and then everybody just stopped listening to him.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
he
I
still
remember.
won, and you just see a broken man. That's what I want to see happen to Justin Trudeau, because no one's left listening to him anymore. He is in his little champagne socialist world, and he's doing that. And you know, one of the biggest things that he's using is he's manipulating. He's manipulating our democracy with the like with the pillars of our society. Like he tries, like, Canadians do this, Canadians do that. He's manipulating our democracy, the pillars of society, as a propaganda tool. Like he's trying to make that happen. It's like when he, like the Terry Fox statue.
Yeah,
They said they defaced it. It was a flag
hat.
and a hat and a sign. When there's left wing protests, it's paint. It's actually defaced.
Yeah.
An upside down flag does not represent a lack of patriotism. It is actually quite different. People have lost what the meaning of it is. If people see it, they're like, "Oh, that's against our military."
It
And
means it,
no,
quite
it's
simply, doesn't it mean distress, right?
it means a citizenry and a country in distress. That's what it means.
Yep.
So just because Terry Fox's statue had an upside down flag on it, if you take anybody from the 1970s at the age he was in the 1970s and tell them what's going on now, I guarantee you they're behind the truckers. They haven't been subverted over these past years, like Yuri Bezmenov was explaining was going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? They haven't been subverted. And like last time when I had brought up that there was going to be an event, this is the event.
Yeah.
Right? Justin Trudeau is trying to make this not his January 6th. He is trying to make this his Reichstag fire.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing. That's what they're trying to do at January 6th, and that's what he's doing. The truckers cannot lose this. The Canadian people cannot lose this battle. We have to win this, right? And the way to win it is with peace. Do not blow up, because the more aggressive the government gets, the more military that shows up, a policeman pulls a trigger, that moment,
Falls
the
apart.
Canadian government is finished.
Yeah.
And it's at that moment when it may get violent, but they have to throw the first blow, right? And the Canadian people don't want that.
No.
The Canadian people don't want that. The Canadian military has said multiple times this is not a military issue.
Yeah.
Right? So anyway.
I've heard. I don't know how credible it is, but I've heard the military is saying they will deny it anyway to help in the situation. But I think you're absolutely right. It is the truckers have already won. That's why they're on the fence. And the only reason, and I'll leave it on this note, because this is what it's all about. It's all about money at the end of the day. The only fucking reason that they put in a state of emergency yesterday in Ontario and they tried to escalate things the last 24 hours is because they shut down the Ambassador Bridge. I'm familiar with Windsor because I used to live there. I went to school there. Um, a bunch of fucking rich motherfuckers who run a bunch of car companies who did not have to shut down or change any of their fucking shit. The only thing they had to solve was a chip shortage throughout the whole pandemic. Otherwise, they were making more fucking money than ever. They were producing cars, used car sales, the whole auto industry, you know, was doing fucking fine. A bunch of rich people started to get affected from the bridge getting closed. Oh, my parts aren't getting in. Oh, and I feel bad for any worker who couldn't work the last 2 days, but I'm sorry. You know,
I lost my business.
you lost your business. People haven't been working for months. I'm pretty sure the factory plants have been going pretty much throughout into they were deemed as essential. So fuck off. You know what I mean? Rich people started to hurt their pocketbooks. After a week of it started to hurt their pocketbooks, and now these cronies are coming in, putting in all their little threats and fear mongering, and saying, "Hey, now our buddies are losing their money. We got to get you guys under wraps." Well, newsflash, that's not how it works, guys.
I said it at the beginning of this trucker thing. I posted it on my Facebook. I wanted it there kind of as a historical thing that I can revert back to because I said, worries about this when they just started rolling.
Yeah.
Right? Worries means there's a lot of support behind this right now. But what the tyrant is going to do is the tyrant is going to sit and he's going to hide. I called it, right?
Yeah.
He's not going to do anything because the longer it goes, he's trusting that the people turn on themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
100%. Yeah.
And I do see some people saying, like, well, come on, you guys got to leave this so people can get back to work. Why is your eyes focused on the truckers? Your eyes should be focused on the prime minister. Right now, it's been 2 weeks that probably millions of Canadians, when you look at all the bridges and stuff, like people like, waiting on the truckers and stuff, have been standing shoulder to shoulder, ignoring these tyrannical policies. There are no corpses lining the streets. Emergency rooms are not jam-packed. The death count hasn't gone catastrophic. What's happening right now is, this is my next prediction, what's happening. They are fighting tooth and nail. They will not go down without a fight. Justin Trudeau is not going to go down without a fight. He's going to have to basically be dragged out of Parliament. And when I say that, I'm not saying by the protesters, because sooner or later, his party is going to crack and there will be a no confidence vote, or the Governor General, whose office is getting flooded with
calls. Yeah. I called.
I sent an email. Has been getting flooded. Sooner or later, they're going to have to dissolve Parliament, and this is not like what they're saying. They're saying that they're trying to overthrow the government. This is how our parliamentary system works, right? They will dissolve the government and have an election, right? That is what will happen. And Pierre Poilievre now with the Conservatives. No, I don't like any career politician, but he currently is the most palatable. I wish I didn't have to go towards something like that. The Conservatives will win.
Yeah.
Now that Pierre Poilievre, if Max Bernier was the head of the Conservative Party, they would have won.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
The last 2 elections, and if Poilievre's got more support than Max does, and he will. But the thing is, like, he's a career politician too. You can't trust him.
No, you can't trust him.
But that is the next thing. Trudeau's going to fight, and why? Because if he loses, whatever's been happening is going to get exposed. People are going to start learning what is actually behind this. Because at this point, if it's not obvious to you, it's not about the virus. Because like people have been ignoring these things for 2 weeks. Nobody's getting sick.
Yeah.
Why have this policy?
You know what I think it's about? It's about this little World Economic Forum. That's a whole nother fucking podcast episode. But I think that a lot of the
that's up for the next one. Because the last one pitched into this because they played right into that.
Yeah. I think I have to do a little bit more digging myself before I can intelligently speak about it. But I'll share this last thing with you before we finish.
By the way, I read the book. It's like the Communist Manifesto.
Yeah, I know. So I'll share this thing before. So I did the same thing you did. I got there's a guy I went to high school with. When the trucker thing started 2 weeks ago, he posted a photo of Justin all like fucking, one of those patriotic poses, sketches, photoshopped like a cartoon, like he looks like Hitler used to do to himself, right? Glorifying himself. Mao did it. All these fucking tyrannical assholes do it. So I said, I responded to it, and I said, this guy's a criminal. He's a crook. And it took off from there. And so this guy was against the stuff. He was like, you should, take your fucking shot and shut up. This is the new world order. He's just following the new world order. He's just following along. He's not a bad guy. He's just following. This is where the world is headed. So either hop on board or not. And I responded to him, and then I left it at that because those conversations with those kind of people are toxic, right? I didn't want it. So I didn't even fucking pay attention. And then it's like, that was like, I ended it at like 1 o'clock. At like 8:30 at night, I see my phone just go off, right? This guy sends me like 7, 8 different messages saying, haha, you lost. See, the trucker protest didn't do anything. We won, you lost. Like it was a fucking competition, right? I'm like, well, that wasn't the point of it. We didn't expect anything to change in one day. They said they were going to sit there until the mandates were gone. So,
how can an adult behave like that?
yeah. And so then he starts getting angry. His messages get angry. I sent one message back, it gets angry. And here's where I knew things were changing in this kind of world. Where he sent me a photo of, the pyramid with the eye in it. And
Yeah.
so I had to look it up, and I'm like, okay, that's an Illuminati signal. That's Illuminati. And so I have to do, this is big, my tinfoil hat on. I have to do a lot of more digging. But what I think is this World Economic Forum and people that are involved with it, and you can check it out. It's pretty public. John Tory's involved. He's spoken with for them. Same with Doug Ford. Uh, so I saw a video of them saying that
Schwab has openly bragged about having half the cabinet under his control.
The guy, yeah, he said he had penetrated the Canadian cabinet, And so what I believe is, and and I'm speaking from a totally non-educated point on this. So this looks like another kind of Illuminati organization where they're looking for power and control using money and politicians to manipulate populations. And
this is where you fall off.
Yeah.
What goes wrong. These people don't believe they're doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
That's what it is. These tyrants, Justin Trudeau thinks what he's doing is the best for humanity.
Yeah.
Tyrants don't see themselves as tyrants. They see themselves as prophets.
Yeah.
They're narcissistic sociopaths. I said, and they hide it through their compassion.
Yeah, and like you were saying, when this falls apart, and if Justin goes out dragged out, it exposes this, and so I think he will have. Yeah, and so like I said, I have to do more work and research into that organization and the people involved with it because I know they're powerful people. They're not inviting they're not inviting Elon Musk to talk because he's a free thinker. They're not going to invite him.
I don't trust Elon Musk.
I don't trust anybody at this point. But you get what I'm saying. So I have to do a little bit more digging. But I feel like if Justin gets dragged out, it will show where all this money was actually going, where all
his life will be on the line. I think that's what it is because treason is the only crime punishable by death in Canada.
Yeah, where the SNC Lavallee and stuff, all money can be traced back to things. And I actually wanted to bring this up before we finish. Let me pull this up. So, this was, I'm huge into investing and stuff like that. So, this week Pfizer reported their results they had their little quarterly report, right? And I want to bring this up because it's public. It's out there. You can see this. This is so the net income for Pfizer jumped 3.39 billion. So that from a year ago, at the same report, 847 million. I want somebody to logically explain to me how you go from 847 to 3.39 billion. 847 million to 839 billion without red flags in your fucking head going off. Right? And the other part about this report was their guidance for the rest of the year was weak, right? Their guidance was weak, but they were expecting huge sales for their antiviral pill. The quote conspiracy theory repurposed ivermectin with maybe an ingredient change to make it patented, right? So when you follow the money,
look that up.
When you follow the money, you find the tyrants. And so this is an classic example, like you said, when you follow the money, you will find at the other end of it Justin Trudeau, as well as a lot of other people in the same positions
Freeland.
of power.
Freeland.
Yep, Freeland. You're gonna find. I'm sure you'll find Hunter and Joe and that little assholes out in Australia, and as well as the little fucking assholes in France. I'm sure you'll find Boris Johnson somewhere in there. When you follow the money, you're gonna find where this is starting and ending, and you know that's just a simple earnings report. That's just a simple earnings report. I can follow that tooth and nail. You don't go from 800 unless you've done something monumental. You've done
Well, they
uh,
did come out with the vaccine. Well,
yeah,
the
but I'm talking about monumental. That vaccine wasn't life changing. That wasn't a life changing.
not
It's
of money.
not. There's a lot of money in it, but there's not. It's not a life changing thing. It's not like curing cancer, right?
No,
So
no. What I mean is that's where their finances come from, right?
yeah,
We've been paying,
yeah,
like
and
we've been,
so when you
for
follow
our
that,
show.
so what I believe is when this is all said and done, if things work out for the people and not for the tyrants, the money will show that it was there's a link between big pharma, the World Economic Forum, and why the leaders are doing what they're doing. Put it that way.
So yeah, they're trying to instill a new economy. So it's yeah. I believe
And anyway, let's leave it there on that negative note. uh,
that.
all right. Anyway, thank you for doing this, Coach. I really
Thanks for having me.
appreciate it again. And uh, let anybody know how they can reach you in terms of if they want to enlist your services for weight loss coaching or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah, it was for sure. Yeah, so I still do life coaching. I just don't do it a lot. It's not something I like. So if someone asks, I take care of that. But I'm focusing on um, online weight loss. Very successful program. You can click on my group. It's on my profile. You can see in there some before and afters. It's an awesome program. You get to eat what you want. You get to work out under 4 hours a week. Um, and just live your life normal. You're not depriving yourself of anything, and you're going to lose weight. It's a fantastic program. It's been very successful, and it's funny because of all the things I've done, from MMA to my boot camps, training people, and I get the biggest rush out of changing somebody's life.
Yeah.
And I get that. I've had that in martial arts a few times where I've had a student I've given some advice, like personal talking, right, where they're struggling, they've been bullied, they've come to me and they've said, like, thank you so much, it's changed my life, right? Like,
Yeah.
or I've had students come back to me years later and say, my time at your school was great. You get it immediately with the weight loss. It's like a dopamine hit. I love it when my clients. It's like, hey, I lost 2 pounds this week, or I lost 12 pounds in the last 4 weeks. I had one woman who she's lost 12 pounds in her first 4 weeks, and her measurements were ridiculous. Like there's a picture of it up on my in my group. So yes, please look to join. It's a great program, and it's done 100% remotely.
Yeah, there you go. And he's definitely fit as fuck, and he's educated as fuck, so he knows exactly what he's talking about. I can vouch for that. He got my fat ass ready to fight professionally. So my brown ass who likes to eat everything in sight. So anyway, that was another episode. And thank you everybody for listening. And that's it for us. Peace out. Hey everybody, thank you for watching. Please do me a favor, click the like below, share on YouTube, share on Instagram, share on Facebook, spread the word so I can keep creating more content for you, keep providing you with a great podcast experience. Peace out.